So this is Larry Murphy, Chair of the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Peter Pecos.
Yes.
George Morris.
Yes.
Leslie Matthews.
Yes.
Lee Knight.
Yes.
And I understand Mary Stone, our associate member, will not be with us tonight. Town staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor, Planning Director,
Yes.
and Kristen Grubbs, Assistant Town Planner.
Yes.
Anticipated speakers, and I understand we have several who may be running late tonight, but I'll go through them anyway. Tom Woodruff, Governor's Academy.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Mark Beaudry, Civil Works.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're here.
Thank you. Bob Grasso, Engineering Land Services.
Yes, I am here.
Thank you. Michael McNiff.
Not here yet.
Okay. Bob Griffin, Griffin Engineering Group.
Present and ready.
Thank you. TJ Melvin, Millennium Engineering.
He will be coming in late.
Okay. Scott Kinter. All right. Michael DeSantis. Crane
Yes,
Properties.
Scott is actually here, but he may have stepped away since he's not on for a while.
All right. Thanks, Martha. And Michael DeSantis, I believe we might be expecting them late, as well as Attorney Haney, I believe will be coming in a little later.
I'm here on
Right.
behalf of that, Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
Jennifer
thank you. Attorney
DiCarlo.
DiCarlo. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So this is the March 15th, 2023 open meeting of the Newbury Planning Board and is being conducted remotely consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which extends the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31, 2023. This order supersedes, or excuse me, suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found on the town's website and which identifies how the public may join. You may join by going to http://zoom.us and entering meeting ID number 832-7141-3056, or by calling 1-929-205-6099 US, New York, and entering meeting ID number when prompted. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference. The meeting is also being broadcast live through local access cable channel 9 on Zoom and at www.tnctv.org, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the board members prior to the meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and if needed, share information to the screen, in which case please state your intention after you've been called. Just some ground rules before we turn to the first item on the agenda. For effective and clear conduct of our business and ensure accurate meeting minutes would adhere to the following ground rules. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using your mute button or your phone, *6 to toggle mute or unmute when you are not speaking. Please use earbuds, earphones with tablets and cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. For public comment, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will seek questions and comments through the Zoom raised hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the gray hand that appears. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the More function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone key. I will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they are listed, which is determined by the order in which people click on the raised hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address and then ask a question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant or participant or his or her representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. I will then continue down the list of those in the raised hand column and again afford the participant, applicants, or representatives an opportunity to speak. Should there be a physical or electronic submittal of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. And again, the participant, applicant, or representative will be afforded the opportunity to speak if the issues raised have not yet been addressed. Finally, please note that each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And we will have a change in the order on the agenda. As I indicated, Attorney Haney advised us that he may be running late, so that we will now reverse the order of the new and old business when we get to that. So the first item on the agenda is we have Tom Woodruff or Mark Beaudry from the Governor's Academy, submission of a level 2 site plan review application for a walkway from Middle Road to the Alfonda Coastal Research Center, previously Presby. So if either of you gentlemen would care to give us a brief overview of the application.
Sure, I'll start off. Good evening, Mr. Martha, Mr. Chairman, Kristen, members of the board. I'm Tom Woodruff. I'm the Director of Facilities at Governor's Academy. And as Mr. Chairman mentioned, we're here to formally submit our application for a level 2 site plan review for a proposed sidewalk extension, pardon me, and a path leading through the woods from Middle Road to our maintenance buildings and the site of the under construction Alfont Coastal Research Center. The purpose of the path is really to connect the main part of campus to a area of campus that's a little bit more peripheral. It's currently just our maintenance buildings, and as I mentioned, will now be the site of the Coastal Research Center. Access to these areas has historically been and is currently gained via vehicular traffic, and pedestrian traffic have to use Middle Road to walk down to this site. And we anticipate with the new Coastal Research Center opening later this year that foot traffic and vehicular traffic to the site will increase. So we feel it's important to provide a safer means to do so by foot. And I'm here with Mark Beaudry from Civil Works New England, who you probably recognize. He was part of he was the main engineering team member behind the Alfont Coastal Research Center. So he's very familiar with the area and the project. And maybe I'll hand it over to Mark, and he was going to share a screen site plan and give sort of a general locus overview of the project. And I think we're here to answer any questions and understand that the main question Q&A session will happen during the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Martha. Martha, if you could share a screen with me, I can get a plan pulled up.
You should be all set to do it.
Okay, cool. Let's see. What I'm trying to do here is to get to my desktop. Hold on. Get this out of the way. Bear with me. Okay, can you, hoping you can see that?
We can see your
I
email.
don't see a plan.
We see your email.
Oh, still?
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, because I clicked on. So I can see the campus context plan up, but you folks can't see it.
Nope, all we can see are your
Wow.
emails.
Okay, hold on.
Lots of emails from me.
Wow. All right, this is frustrating. Let me actually go to my email then and try clicking on. Can you see it now?
No,
You might have to close that share and start a new one. And I can try, Mark, if you want.
All right, hold on. All right, let me try again.
If you get really stuck, I can go into the email that you sent and I can try it as well.
How about now?
Nope.
Wow.
Well, let me take you
Wow.
off the hook here, Mark. I think, Martha, the only thing we're really on for tonight is to accept the application and set a public hearing date. Is that correct?
That's
Oh, do
correct.
you have-
Mark was.
Oh, there we
here,
go.
right.
Okay,
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
Mark,
Okay,
I'm gonna give you a little context.
apologies for that.
no problem.
Okay, so this is our overall context plan that, you know, down at the bottom is Elm Street and whatnot. As you come into the campus, athletic fields on the right-hand side, buildings on the left, hockey rink, for example.
Governor Dummer.
Excuse me? Yeah, if we keep on going up Middle Road, which is right up the middle of the plan, heading north, Parker River is on the very top. You can see shaded in green is the Alfond Coastal Research Center, which formerly called Parker River Environmental Studies Building that the board reviewed a few years ago and is now under construction. So currently the sidewalks along Middle Road end right about where that red line starts, and the red line that is proposed that is shown on this plan is actually the proposed walkway. So what I'd like to do now is try to go to that plan. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, great. So this is, we call it the ACRC, or the Alpine Coastal Research Center context plan. Now you can see the solid line right there is it will be a sidewalk that will continue the main sidewalk that runs along Middle Road now, that ends right there at the bottom of the page. So we'll go across the driveway that goes, I think, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, to a dormitory building and some other buildings.
The turf field, yeah.
Yep, so we'll continue with a paved sidewalk and then turn right and cross over Middle Road on a painted crosswalk and get to the where we start going cross country, if you will. Now you can see there's a wetland area right there that we'll be crossing with an elevated boardwalk. And once we get to the east side of the wetland, it'll be a pathway that'll run a crushed rock pathway 5 feet wide that will go through the woods, basically, eventually go along the berm of the stormwater basin for the facilities buildings, and then access the driveway that heads not only to the facilities buildings, but also to the parking area and whatnot for the Coastal Research Building. So this will provide a way for, faculty, students, importantly, the other staff to get from the main campus along an off-street pathway to, off the road to the actual, to get up closer to a safer part of the area by the off-road meeting, by the maintenance buildings, as Tom mentioned, and then they'll be able to just head on up to the building. So I do have one more set of plans here, super quick. I know we're not intending to go over this in detail this evening. So here's again, the red line again puts it all in context on an aerial view. You can see the facilities, buildings, and the various athletic fields. And real quick, yeah, this is a pretty good one right here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So this will basically shows the pathway. So we've got a 6-sheet plan set that goes into all the cross sections, the boardwalk details, the pathway details, the grading. Yeah, everything is included in our plan set. Just super quick. We have a profile. Oh, by the way, everything is designed to be fully ADA, AAB compliant, with surfaces and slopes and everything, which we think is important. And then we will, here is just a section of the boardwalk. It's designed to be very similar to the one that's going to be going from the environmental studies building down to the dock along the Parker River. And this one is a maximum of 30 inches high, so it doesn't have to have railings. Again, it's 5 feet wide. It'll have a fiberglass grading decking with a 62% open area, so it'll allow a lot of light down in and whatnot, and so which is important when we're crossing the wetland. And so and by the way, speaking of wetlands and conservation, we have filed with the Conservation Commission as well as required, and that public hearing is scheduled for March 21st. So we will be hoping to do these 2 reviews, the site plan review as well as the conservation review simultaneously. And by the way, this is just real quick, this is a level 2 site plan review, because the disturbed area that we're looking at total is, with grading and everything, is 7,882 square feet, which exceeds the 5,000 square foot threshold for a major level 2 project. So that's why we are before you this evening. So
All right.
That's about it. We're happy to answer any other questions that you might have. And we're hoping to we're hoping you find our application complete and can schedule us for a public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mark. I do want to point out we have a public hearing scheduled for 7:15, and we will be taking that up following the next item on the agenda. Martha, before I turn to the board members, do you have any comments?
No, just want to note that the application was submitted. The only thing that's missing is the photometric plan for the light bollards. We're expecting that in on Thursday. Not a huge item in the scope of things. And Mark and Tom have picked up review comments that I made on the draft application, and I think it's in good shape.
Think we're ready to go ahead and accept it and schedule a public hearing?
I would say so, yes.
Let me turn to the board members. Pete, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
George, any questions?
No questions.
Leslie, any questions?
No.
Woody, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
I have none either. That being the case, I think we need 2 motions. First, I'd entertain a motion to accept the application.
Motion to accept the application.
Thank you, Leslie.
Second.
Is there a second? I think that was George. Thank you,
Yes.
George. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
George, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
And Woody, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so it's unanimous. Secondly, Martha, I would suggest a public hearing date of April 19th at 7:15 PM. And I want to note this will be an in-person meeting. The legislature has not, as of this evening, extended the governor's order that I referenced in the opening. So unless something changes, we'll be going back permanently to in-person meetings, but we will have to schedule this public hearing as an in-person meeting. So if that date of April 19th at 7:15 is acceptable, I would entertain a motion to set the public hearing for that date and time in person at the town office building.
So moved.
Thank you, Leslie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote on the
Yes.
motion? George, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
And Woody, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so it's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you on the 19th.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody. See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you, Martha.
Next, we have, I believe Bob Grasso from Engineering Land Services is here to submit an A&R plan for lot line adjustments at 2 Marsh Ave, 19 Newbury Neck Road, and 21 Newbury Neck Road. So Bob, you're here, I think.
Good evening.
Yes, I saw you.
For the record, my name is Bob Grasso from Engineering Land Services. This is a simple lot line adjustment plan between 3 existing lots. The perimeter is not going to change on all the lots, just the inner lines, which are basically 2 lot lines that will be adjusted. They're basically parcels A, B, and C. They have, all the lots are existing. They have sufficient frontage, sufficient area. They're located in the RAG zone, which is minimum 40,000 square foot area, and 125 feet of frontage. Like I said, they have sufficient frontage and area. Lot 3, which is 21 Newbury Neck Road, has a total frontage of 161.19 feet, and final lot area of 106,376 square feet, which is roughly 2.4 acres. The second lot is lot 3A, which is 19 Newbury Neck Road. That is lot 3A that has sufficient frontage of 130 feet and a lot area of 139,629 square feet, roughly 3.2 acres. And the last lot would be lot 4, which is 2 Marsh Ave. That has sufficient frontage of 353 feet and 34.34. And that total area is 192,665 square feet, which is roughly 4.4 acres. It's just a lot line adjustment between the 3 existing lots.
I put this plan up on the screen. Can you all see it?
Yes.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Bob. Martha, any comments before we turn to the board?
No, I don't. Bob had submitted a draft. It was in very good shape, just a few minor revisions that needed to be made. And it does, as Bob noted, meet the lot area and frontage requirements, including the area of contiguous upland. And that's actually measured from the ACEC, which extends farther into the lots than the wetlands line does.
Okay, thanks, Martha. Pete, do you have any questions?
No questions, thanks.
George, any questions?
No questions.
Leslie, any questions?
No questions.
Woody, any questions?
No questions.
No, I have none either. It looks pretty straightforward. Then I would entertain a motion to endorse the A&R plan. Martha, I'm trying to remember, do we need to include in that motion an authorization for me to sign the plan, or we have something on record at the registry to that effect, don't we?
It is on record at the registry. You and the vice chair are both authorized individually to sign the plan.
So we just need a motion to endorse then.
That's correct.
All right, then I would entertain such a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Leslie. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
George, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote on the motion?
yes.
Woody, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
I vote yes as well, so it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And Martha, when can I pick up that plan?
We'll need to coordinate with the chair to get it signed. So as soon as it's ready, I'll let you know.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you.
Okay, now that brings us to our public hearing. These are concurrent public hearings on 170 Orchard Street, map R20 lot 43A. The owner applicant, the estate of Louis Bulgaris, care of Diane Yurkovich. One is for a definitive subdivision plan application for Fields Way, 170 Orchard Street, and the other common driveway special permit application for a common driveway serving 2 lots at proposed Fields Way subdivision, 170 Orchard Street. Before turning to the applicant, I want to note that I did miss the first session of the public hearings, but I have reviewed the video and have submitted the required so-called Mullen certificate pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D, as required by law. And actually, before turning to the applicant, Pete, could you maybe recap the observations made at the site walk on January 21st?
Sure. Let's see, we had 3 board members, 2 staff for the site walk. Unfortunately, the applicant was not available at the site walk to answer any questions. So the questions that we had were unanswered. We were able to observe the current situation and we're able to, I think, establish the midline of where the roadway would be and the end of the cul-de-sac. We were able to also observe where the stormwater research or what stormwater management area would be positioned. I think there are some questions that probably I might have with regards to that. We did spot a coyote that was spotted first by Woody and also by Kristen, a very healthy coyote that ran out of the brush. Good amount of mud, nice and wet. And I think that's it.
Okay, thanks, Pete. So is the applicant available? Who's going to be speaking on behalf of the applicant? I'm sorry.
So I'll get started. This is Bob Griffin from Griffin
thank you,
Engineering, and I see, the Mr. McNiff is here from NPM Companies. First, I want to apologize for not making the site walk. I got sick and was on another planet for several days and just totally lost track of things. So I'm very sorry that I was unable to get out there that day. And if anybody wants to schedule another site walk, I'm happy to accommodate that. So just let me know. Since our last presentation, we've submitted a new set of plans back to the town, primarily for the purpose of addressing the peer reviewers' comments. I spoke to Mr. Sawaka earlier today, and he tells me he's working on the review and expects to have it done by, I think, Friday or next Monday. So I think that's going along normally. And of course, I offered to address any questions verbally or however he would like. So I think by the time the board meets next, hopefully those issues will be resolved. There was not a whole lot of plan changes as a result of this new submittal. It was primarily addressing comments, providing some additional information. We did do some additional surveying out at the site in order to address some of his questions. We made some additional spot grade measurements. We set some additional benchmarks and put that information on the plan. But really nothing that changes any layout or anything like that. We did provide a lot of additional soil test data, and I could show you on our plans, the test pits, but there's probably over 60 or 70 test pits that have been done on this piece of land. And so I think we've got a reasonably good characterization of soils out there. And I suspect that information will be satisfactory to Mr. Sawaka as well. We also provided some of the soil test data that had been provided from an earlier application, the Forge Village application, you may recall. We made some drainage revisions in response to the comments that we received. And one of those comments was or one of those changes was to lower the proposed pocket wetland area by about 6 inches as compared to the previous elevations. But we checked those elevations. We think they're pretty good. And we think the pocket wetland is going to meet all stormwater management standards. We think the entire project meets all stormwater management standard requirements. There was a comment made about the driveway on the right-hand side as you come in, number 168. You may recall that the property line actually goes over the existing driveway for number 168. So Mr. McNiff's been able to speak to the property owner, and we've been showed on our plan a revised driveway location so that
You know,
they'll actually.
if I can interrupt you just
Yeah.
for a second, it might be helpful if we could get the plan up.
Let me do that. Yep. Okay, hang on. Can you see the site plan now?
Yes.
Good, okay. So I'm just gonna blow it up just a little bit here. So here's the driveway that I was referring to for number 168. So they'll come in, 100 feet or 150 feet or so, and then turn into their property here. And you can see how the property line crosses over the existing driveway here, and we'll restore this area with lawn. Mr. McNiff has also been able to speak to the other adjacent property owners. I don't think we're proposing any changes in regards to 172, but I think he had also spoken to the gentleman across the street about providing some hemlocks or something like that in the yard. There was a concern expressed about lights coming in that particular direction. So I think that's, he's been successful in that regard. We've also, I know Mr. McNiff has been talking to the fire department recently about the hydrant locations. We have the hydrants pretty much where they were before, but based on some fire department comments that were made today, there may be some minor adjustments in the hydrant locations. I just want to flip to the next sheet quickly to show you. So here's the layout of the houses with all of these little test pits that have been done mostly by us, but some by the prior developer or proposed developer. And so you can see we've spent a little bit of time digging test pits and trying to make sure that we had good soils around our septic system locations. So I hope that's helpful to you. Going back here. We also made some site distance measurements. So coming out of Fields Way, looking, right and left, north and south on Orchard Street, check the site distance. That was a question that had come up at our last discussion. And we have over 700 feet in the southbound direction, and I think 500 feet in the northbound direction. That compares to a requirement of 200 feet for a road in the 30-mile-per-hour posting, which is what we have here. So we have significantly more site distance than is required by AASHTO standards. And I think that's consistent with the lease comments that came in previously. They thought that they had been out to the site and thought that the visibility was reasonable. We provided the town with a draft operations and maintenance agreement for the 4 lot owners for Fields Way. Fields Way, as you may recall, is intended to be a private way. I think that's about it. So we provided test pit data, we provided some revised plans, and I think we're just at this point waiting for Mr. Sawaka's response and your response on the plan revisions and our letter. I'd be happy to address any questions.
One of the things I think we have to consider when it comes to the common driveway special permit is whether there's viable access to lot 4 without the common driveway. Can you show us how you would lay that out? I believe I've seen something to that effect.
Right. So this is the lot 4 access over here. And so this is that old foundation, and you can see here's our wetland border. I would remind you that the wetlands have been approved by the Conservation Commission through an ANRAD process. And so, we could simply come off of the frontage here. We could come across. It's all upland access, get back onto the driveway, and you're over to lot 4. This is the frontage for lot 3. Here's lot 2 and lot 1.
Excuse me if I may, Bob, you actually had a plan of that driveway in the application. Do you have that you could put up on your screen? For the individual driveway?
Is it something, this is something I submitted with the original application, Martha?
It was an 11 by 17.
Well, I'll try. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
If not, I actually may be able to do it.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for this one. I'm not done going through my directory to see if I can find it.
I've got it here.
Okay.
So if you'd
I'm
like.
gonna stop sharing. Yep.
It's gonna take me a second. Can you see that now?
Yep.
I think this is what Bob was talking about. So it's outside the wetlands, but in the buffer zone. And it's appears to be sort of to the north of the stormwater constructed wetland is in this area here.
How long is that driveway, do we know?
Let's see. I mean, as presently proposed, the driveway is around 500 feet from the cul-de-sac to lot 4. This might be a little bit longer than that, so I'd say probably 600, 700 feet, maybe at the most.
And would that need to go before the Conservation Commission?
Any work within the buffer zone requires Conservation Commission approval, yes, but it appears to meet certainly all the performance standards of the Wetland Protection Act. It looks like a permittable driveway.
All right, thank you. Do we have, well, actually, let me turn to the board members at this point. Pete, do you have any questions?
Oh, I have about 7. I don't know if you want to hear them now, if you want to let other people go first.
All right, you want to reserve?
I will, I'll come back.
Okay,
I don't want to bore everybody up front.
George, you have any questions?
The only question I would have right now is the length of the driveway of being 600 to 700 feet, which I believe would probably require a waiver. Martha, do you believe that might be true?
Actually, I don't believe that there is any maximum length stipulated for the driveway. If this were to be done instead of the common driveway, certainly we would want to get fire department input on it.
Yes, okay, thank you. That's all, Larry.
Thank you, George. Leslie?
A couple of quick questions. This one it's more, the hydrant location is going to be approximately where?
So right now we have one at the intersection of Orchard and Fields Way. We have one at the cul-de-sac and we have one at the end of the common driveway. And as I mentioned, Mr. McNiff has been talking to the fire department and those locations may move a little bit, but for now, that's where they wanted them and that's where they're at.
And isn't there a utility pole that sits at the end of the entrance to the subdivision?
There is, and this, I believe, is on the opposite side. Yeah, it is. The hydrant's on the opposite side of the telephone pole.
And will that utility pole remain in the same place, or will it have to be adjusted for a larger entrance area?
Right now, the plan shows the pavement being not requiring movement of that telephone pole.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Woody, do you have anything?
I don't have any questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us back to Dr. Pecos.
Okay,
Yes,
hey,
sir.
could we pop the image back up?
Sure. Yep.
Bob, yeah. Okay, top of the list. Yeah, I had the same concern that Leslie had on the sidewalk, that telephone pole. I'm not sure how that could be, I think
It's right
that might
there.
need to, might need to think about that. It's going to be an awful close component, plows, any large vehicle turning in there, 2 cars at the same time, I think that's going to be an issue. Just us standing there, I felt claustrophobic with it next to us. Second comment on driveway for 168, are you going to be paving that?
It really depends on the discussions between Mr. McNiff and the property owner. Right now, the driveway is gravel.
Yep.
I think I'd presume that the new driveway would be gravel, but it could possibly be paved.
Okay, cool. The elevations of the buildings that you're showing, you're going to be putting full basements in there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so these buildings are going to kind of be sticking up in the air a little bit. This
Yeah.
doesn't have the,
Very well, yeah.
yeah, I think we're going to need.
No, you're right. There's there are going to stick up a little bit, and if the basement goes down 1 or 2 feet from the existing grade due to shallow groundwater table, there'll be some landscaping or some planting done around the outside so that it won't look like it's the basement's out of the ground, but it to be determined with the architect and the future owners, I guess.
Super. So you hit on it, the shallow groundwater. What's your thought process with regards to French draining or something else, other way to manage the rain that's going to be happening in the soils and stuff and managing that runoff?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a shallow groundwater table really across the site, and so I don't think that it's all that feasible to put in drains to lower the groundwater table at each of the house locations and then run that. You'd have to run it 150, 200 feet to discharge closer to the wetlands at a lower elevation. I see that as kind of challenging, actually.
Okay, so you don't see any concerns with water in basements?
Oh, listen, I hate wet basements as much as anybody, and so we'll be looking at those basement elevations pretty carefully to make sure that we don't put them in the water table.
Yeah, cool. So if I understand correctly, behind lots 1 and 2, each is going to have an elevated field. Are you going to make that one contiguous field, or is that going to be 2 individual elevated fields in the back of lots 1 and 2? Yeah.
Right now we're showing the contour going around, sort of a giant oval shape.
Okay. So then lot 2 will have 2 elevated fields in the back, as I remember correctly, right? Because we're going to have lot 4 emptying into lot 2, the back end of lot 2, but it's going to be part of lot 4.
It's right there, yeah.
Okay. All righty. So currently lot 4 has 16 acres. Is there any talk about putting that into long-term agricultural provision or?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly, the back portion of the lot is, much of it has been farmed and continues to be farmed, and there's no reason that it can't continue. It can't be farmed in the future. At this point, we haven't really talked about putting a restriction to require it to be farmed necessarily, but this is sort of that middle area, there's a wetland sort of in the middle, but you're right, this area, part of lot 4 has been farmed in the past, and I think we'd all like to see it farmed again.
Right. So that's why we're bringing up that point. Hey, these are going to be wells for drinking water, or are they going to be town water?
Town water. We're bringing in the 6 or 8 inch line with the hydrants and water services to each lot.
Okay, there was one more question, but I can't read my own handwriting, so you're safe.
Okay.
I have a couple. Are you done, Pete? I'm sorry.
Yes, I am. Thanks very much.
On that septic system for lot 4, it's obviously not an optimal situation there. Is there nowhere else you can locate that? I mean, it strikes me that it could be a serious source of contention between the owners of lots 2 and 4. And I also have concern about the screening on Pearson Drive. You're going to have to dig that up. Is there no other alternative for that system?
Well, so what this plan shows, here's lot 4 house over here, and you can see all these test pits around, these potentially viable soil locations. And we found, we're required to show 4 feet of pervious soils in order to put in a septic system. And, we would find, 30 inches or 36 inches, sometimes even 42 inches, but we never found the full 4 feet of naturally occurring pervious soils that we needed to put a septic system in any of these holes. So I think it shows that we worked pretty diligently to try to find a location closer to the house, but we didn't. So we found acceptable soils over here and, we've got, no problems on lots 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I think you can see that the force main line runs right along the edge of the woods here. So we're not proposing to do any clearing of that existing vegetated buffer along Pearson Drive. I think that, we'll have the paperwork to make it clear to the Lot 2 owner that, they've got a landscaping easement, but they don't have, but there's a septic system back there and it's not their property and it's got to be protected.
Is there a reserve area?
That these systems are big enough so that they're showing both the primary and the reserve. We alternate the primary trench and the reserve trench across the field. So both the reserve and the primary fields are shown on the plan.
But again, if they're a raised system, why can't they go? I'm still not clear to me why they can't go over to the main part of the,
Yeah.
closer to the house.
So it's not, so we're constrained not just by groundwater in designing a septic system, but we also have to have 4 feet of pervious natural soil. And so when we dig down, and in this particular case, we have, shallow water tables. So we have, a clayey tight soil near the ground surface and the groundwater sort of on top of that. And then we punch through that and we get into some sandier soils. And that's that sand that we're looking for. So we're looking for 4-foot thickness of good quality sand for these septic systems, and we found it, sort of on the eastern, or I guess it would be the southern portion of the lot, but not so much as we move to the north.
Okay,
Hey, Larry, could I come back?
sure.
So, Bob, just to, if we were to, can you go a little bit, I guess, to the left of the screen here? So that would be, I guess, that'd be west, going west.
This area over here.
Yeah, so we have all these test pits that were done previously, and before I know we were talking about, I don't know, 15 houses or something, and there might have been a combined system, but why have we looked for test pits really west of where that lot 4 is going to be for that septic? Because the quick thing I couldn't read was my handwriting was current buffer, because the current buffer is kind of thin, and on the sidewalk was kind of visualized, wintertime. There's not much of a buffer. So if you tinker with any of that, I have a concern for the abutters and what they're going to see. So has there been any exploration for potential septic in the other direction along the, further west?
So we did go, beyond this area here and, further away from Orchard Street. And we did dig some test pits, but we generally quickly found poor quality soil. So the soils on the soils map indicates better soils closer to Orchard Street than further away. And we did do some digging out there and we didn't find much. And it's still possible we could go dig some more test pits in lot 4 further to the further really northwest and potentially find some better soils. But we've tried, I think, fairly diligently already to try to locate that septic system near the house, and we're unable to do it.
Yeah, because I got to tell you, I don't think anybody's real comfortable with where your septic's going to go with this really creative pulling lot 4 into lot 2. Honestly.
Well, it certainly meets all the Title V requirements. I don't think, we don't require any waivers for the septic system. And I think it'll be approved by the Board of Health.
I don't know if you heard what I just said.
I did.
Okay, okay.
And
So
I wish that we could.
not wanting the buffers to be, in any way made more marginal.
So again, we're not proposing to disturb the buffer at all. So we're digging a trench
Okay.
along the edge of the woods. We're not cutting into the woods at all to install this pipe.
Okay, I've expressed my concerns. Thanks.
Larry, can I jump in one more time?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna go back on something that Pete mentioned. And there is a little bit of a downward slope and the runoff of water, and nobody does like a wet basement. But the idea that, that the potential for wet basement is definitely there, no matter if you raise the foundation a little bit higher and hide it by landscaping. And Pete brought up the idea of like putting in a French drain for a protection reason. And I have to say, I have to go along with that because I feel that even though there's been a lot of places that have been built that have been promised that there's not going to be any water in the basement, it has turned out that there can be water in the basement. So that's my concern. I just, you know, for protection reason for the homeowner to some kind of installation to protect them from the runoff of the water. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Leslie. As far as the fire department goes, you mentioned that they wanted a fire hydrant down at the end of the common driveway, but has the fire department weighed in at all about the adequacy of access to their equipment along the common driveway?
Well, we did meet with the fire department before we submitted the plans, and we, you know, discussed this particular layout. We showed them this layout before we submitted it, and we incorporated their comments. So to my knowledge, they've been satisfied. This is the plan that shows the hydrant location. Here's the one we added at the end of the common driveway right here. There's one here at the cul-de-sac, and then there's one at the entrance.
Yeah, it just strikes me, and again, obviously would defer to fire on this, but it strikes me as it might be kind of a tight turn getting into that common driveway, especially if there are vehicles parked in the cul-de-sac or, you know, snowbanks, but I guess we can wait to hear from them on that.
Well, we did provide them with diagrams showing the path that a fire truck would take coming in and out and turning around and all that.
You did, okay.
Yes, we did.
As far as just I have just a couple more comments. As far as the maintenance agreement goes, would obviously want that reviewed by town council. But I do have one question, maybe you can help me with, and I'm looking at your March 8th response to Joe Sawecka's comments. And on the 5th page under details 1 and 2 for sheet C9 and C10, maybe you can explain to me, because I'm looking at this with a layman's eye here, but I'm just quoting, due to topographic constraints, narrow lot width and shallow groundwater table at the Fields Way / Orchard Street intersection, further collection and treatment of stormwater runoff from the roadway entrance is not practicable. Consistent with stormwater management guidelines, TSS requirements in this portion of the site are met to the maximum extent practicable. Can you give me that in layman's terms? Because what I'm reading here is you got a problem with drainage out there.
Yeah, I don't think so. Hang on. Okay. So when we look at the elevation of this area here, you know, the elevation is existing, you know, here's our existing grades in Orchard Street, elevation 52. Our pocket wetland out here is also over here at 52. So if we put in a conventional catch basin at the end of the road here and tried to pipe it over to the pocket wetland, it would be too low. So this area is really too low to capture the water from there and get it into the pocket wetland area. And so what the grading of the road does is there's a high point right about here. And so this water from here slopes into these catch basins. I'm sorry, here's the high point. We're capturing basically as much of this road as we can in these catch basins, and then we pipe it back into the pocket wetland here. To deal with the entrance area here, we've got a couple of dry wells, one there, and we have a stone infiltration trench along both sides here. And so what we're saying is that, you know, if we could get this water into our treatment system, we would. If we had more room to put in a different types of a treatment system, we would. But we're basically, you know, we're constrained with our, we're topographically constrained, and we're constrained with the width of our right of way. And so I think we're meeting the stormwater management standards, and that this is a relatively small portion of the project, and we're providing treatment to the maximum extent practicable.
Okay. Maximum extent practicable. I guess I still don't know what that means, but so you have a problem with the width of the way, is that?
Well, again, if we had more land and we might be able to, for example, if it was wider, we might be able to do another pocket wetland or a stormwater, detention basin or something like that, but we just don't have it here. We have a very narrow strip to work with.
Before we open it to the public, Martha or any of the board members have any further comments or questions?
No, I've got one small question. With the driveway now coming into the Fields Way, does that have any impact on the stormwater design?
Nope, because we have an existing gravel driveway and the new driveway is about the same size, so no change.
And was there any consideration to making the houses slab on grade instead of full basements?
I mean, the architectural design of the houses hasn't been, finalized, but I put these house locations on here so that you can see that we're, the approximate size.
Frozen.
Who's Rob?
He's frozen.
Bob, can you hear us?
Hi, Martha. It's Michael McNiff.
Hi.
Hi. I might be able to answer that question because what we do there, it's on houses like this is usually the front is graded up. You'll have a full wall in the front, and then most of the side and rear of the house is a knee wall and a walkout in the back. Certainly the garages are at grade. So we're not going to be sticking those foundations into the water table. I think we have water table measurements 200 years. So we're usually pretty good at that. We can certainly put perimeter drains in these houses. Quite often somebody might have us put them on outside into a dry well, or sometimes we'll put them on the inside for a future sump pump. But usually we've been pretty lucky, and I understand what Leslie said, not everybody's perfect. But with the studies and engineering we have, we're usually pretty successful in keeping it up out of the water table, having some type of wall that allows us to get into the front of the house. And then most of the house is on a knee wall with a walkout in the back. That's how I see those houses up there.
Okay, thank you. It looks like we lost Bob Griffin. Well, Martha, hopefully he'll join us in a few minutes, rejoin us. Do we have any members of the public with raised hands?
I'm not seeing any at the moment.
Okay. Well, what's the pleasure of the board? I obviously, I don't think we're in a position to make any decisions on this tonight. Seem it would be appropriate to continue the public hearing. Martha, assuming the board's in agreement, do you want to do the 19th at 7:15, the 19th of April?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
That, Mr. McNiff, does that work for you?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we should have that peer review response by then.
Hopefully, yeah. All right, that being the case, I'd entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until 7:15 p.m. on April 19th at the for a live meeting at the Newbury Town Hall conference room. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Woody. Is there a second?
Second.
Leslie, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes, thanks.
George, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Woody, I'm gonna take you out of order. How do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
And Leslie, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
All right, and I vote yes as well. So thank you. It's unanimous, and we'll see you on the 19th. Again, that's an in-person meeting at Town Hall.
Thank you.
All right. I think we want to, sorry, Martha, we're going to take this out of order now. We want to move on to Newburyport Turnpike.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so this is 3 Newburyport Turnpike. This is under the new business section. A request from TJ Melvin, Millennium Engineering, for approval of proposed modifications to approve site plan as shown on site plan in Newbury, Mass. Showing proposed site improvements at 3 Newburyport Turnpike, prepared by Millennium Engineering, Inc., revised March 8th, 2023. And this is to change the infiltration basin to rain garden due to existing soil conditions and proposed relocation of connection to the Newburyport water line. Martha, maybe you could just give us a brief explanation of what's going on.
Yeah, so actually, I don't know, TJ, if you could actually share your screen. But this is an issue that came up for a while ago. The site contractor was working on the site and they found that the soils to the east of the proposed building were not as anticipated. So they've been proposing this infiltration, this bioinfiltration basin, and the proposal is to change it to a rain garden instead in exactly the same location and I believe the same footprint. So it's really a change that's being required because of existing conditions.
Okay.
The other proposed change is the location of the connection to the Newburyport water service, which I think TJ will review. Just as a side note to the board, this project also received a special permit from the select board because it's in the water supply protection overlay district. So in speaking with Julie about this, it seemed the best route to go would be to have this come before the board first to make a determination as far as the site plan review is concerned, and then take it before the select board.
Okay, and Joe Sawetka has looked at this, Martha.
Yes, he's reviewed it. So this has been, we've sort of gone through it in a sense of kind of an informal process. Joe has reviewed it twice. So the plans that are before the board tonight are in response to Joe's initial comments. Second set of comments came in yesterday. TJ has those and may speak to the items that still need to be addressed.
Okay, thank you. So really, our questions for tonight are whether or not this would constitute a major modification, a minor modification, or just a field change that would not require any further action on the part of the board. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. TJ, would you like to add anything to what Martha had to say?
Yeah, sure. TJ Melvin with Millennium Engineering. As Martha had described, when the site contractor was kind of doing some work out here, as part of your initial site plan approval, we were required to do additional test pits within the footprint of the bioretention area. And when we did the new testing, unfortunately, we found not only was it fill, but a majority of the fill had wood debris and brick and just junk piled in there. And so after we had our pre-construction meeting with Joe and Martha and conservation, we kind of brought that up of, what's the best solution to move forward with this? It's not ideal to infiltrate through that, for one, and two, the test pits that we dug this time around went deeper and found that we had silty clay soils about 5-6 feet below grade. She just kind of initially talking with Joe, kind of came up with the idea of that we'll just call the whole site D soils for poor infiltration qualities. It's fill on top of clay. So I had rerun some preliminary calculations and sent them over to him. And as Martha had stated, we kept this footprint the exact same. The planting will be the exact same that was approved in here. The only change that we're proposing is instead of relying on infiltration through the bottom of the basin will fill up to a certain level, and we'll be installing an outlet structure shown here. So at various times when the water reaches certain levels within the basin, it will discharge faster through this and out towards the wetland. Again, the function's primarily the same, the footprint's the same. We do have the outlet structure here with an outlet pipe. As Martha had mentioned, Joe had reviewed this a couple times. I believe he had one outstanding item on his last review, just requesting that we provide a Mass DOT spec for the fill, as we're proposing to remove the fill from the basin area and replace it with clean material. Another thing that also had come up, initially when we were permitting this, the owner had planned on directionally drilling a water main connection across Route 1 as requested by Newburyport DPS. And once he finally got the site contractor on board, once kind of got through some of the COVID stuff, and he started up work, we reached back out to Newburyport DPS to let them know that the contractor actually felt that open trenching this would be, much easier. Trying to directionally drill a 12-inch water main across, 4 lanes of traffic isn't ideal. And at that time, I met with Jonathan Carey from DPS, and he had actually suggested there'd be an alternate route that we really hadn't discussed originally. So there's an existing 8-inch main that crosses just a few hundred feet south of our project. So instead of proposing the 12-inch water main across, he had suggested we just extend the 6-inch water main and connect down to the existing main that already crosses Route 1. So those are really the changes that we have at this point. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have, and we'll incorporate any changes you see fit into the revised plans that we'll submit to Joe to hopefully get his final sign off.
Hey, Pete, do you have any questions?
No, I'm glad that you were able to identify the things that shouldn't have been there and that they're removed. Yeah, I have no questions. Thanks.
George, any questions?
No, thank you.
Leslie?
The only question I have is, there's going to be some considerable changes made down in that area as far as the traffic circle. Is that going to interfere with the trenching?
Down to make the water connection.
Yeah,
It shouldn't. Primarily, most of it's off of the shoulder. There's one part that we do have to come into the roadway just to avoid a utility pole, and there's a catch basin there. But unfortunately, there's wetlands also a few feet off of that. So the majority, I'd say about probably 2/3 would be in the shoulder, and then we'll come into the roadway just into the shoulder, like just off the travel lane for the last 100 feet or so.
okay, then I guess the question, maybe I wasn't more as specific as I could have been. That there'll be a lot of road construction, there'll be a lot of digging up, and will that fall into the zone of where that's all going to happen?
I'm not exactly sure of the extent of the other work that's going on. In talking with our contractor, it should only be about a 2 to 3 day process on our end. But I could look into the other Mass DOT proposed work and see where that limit of work falls.
All right, thanks for the answer.
And Woody, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
No. And Martha, ask you one other question. Joe hasn't identified any significant concerns about stormwater management or anything like that, has he?
No, I think his feeling is that this basically is an equivalent to what was proposed before.
Okay.
So I do have a couple of questions.
Okay, please.
So TJ, discussions with Mass DOT about running this line down Route 1?
So we have not had those discussions yet. Unfortunately, the permit has to be applied for by the city, or typically it would be Newbury, but because it's the Newburyport Water, they actually have to apply for the permit. My guess is they would be on board with this more so than crossing the 4 lanes. especially where this is kind of at the direction of DPS.
Okay. So are they kind of waiting for the go-ahead from us to submit that to DOT or?
Yeah, so we were gonna obviously meet with the planning board, and then we're gonna be filing with conservation next week. Because we will have to amend that order as we're proposing more work close to the wetland. So once we get through that process or are pretty comfortable with it, we'll start the process with Mass DOT.
Okay, and that was my next question in terms of process with conservation, but you just answered that.
Yeah, I'll actually be down there tomorrow getting the abutters list, and we'll get that sent in. I believe Sam said the deadline was the 22nd.
Okay, so that actually is being handled to as an amendment to the order.
Yeah, because we're going to be proposing all of that utility work within just, with less than 10 feet to the wetlands. She felt that we'd have
And
to
that's-
amend it for that.
Okay, so that's for the water line,
Correct.
right? Okay. Any process with them on the changing the infiltration basin to the rain garden?
We have not, just because we were kind of waiting to get the water line finalized and just figured we'd do it all at once through at the same amendment.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, let me take a straw poll of the board. What do we think? Major modification, minor modification, of field change? Pete?
Field change.
Yeah. George?
Field change.
Leslie?
Field change.
Woody?
Field change.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any need for more than that. That being the case, I would entertain a motion to approve this as a field change, contingent on final review and approval by the board's peer review engineer and the town planner.
So moved.
I think I heard George first. Thank you, George. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Leslie. Any discussion? Pete, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
George, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, thank you, TJ. I think you're all set for tonight.
Great.
Good luck.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Are we ready? So I think we want to, the next item, again, we're going a bit out of order here from the agenda, is 23 Shondell Drive, extension subdivision request from Scott Kinter for approval of declaration of protective covenants, easements, and agreements running with the land. Scott Kinter, I think you're here. Thought I saw you. No?
He's
Oh,
here.
I'm here.
You're muted. Okay.
Murphy.
So tell us what's going on, Scott.
Well, we've had, it's been a while since I've been before the board. I think it's about a couple of years. So we've made some incredible progress on the site. We finished the main house. We've also completed, for the most part, the right-of-way work. And other than that, we've got some landscaping and some, some grass swales that will be completed, during the landscaping process, which is, believe it or not, going to be started in, I believe, in about 3 weeks. So we're hoping to wrap up the project by, I would say by the end of June, but we're also looking to occupy the main house, frankly, immediately. We've had all the inspections, and we've done the right-of-way work, and this is really a post-construction declaration. So that being said, we're, if you have any concerns, I'd I'm here to hear them and respond to them. But we've worked extremely hard to get to this point, and we're excited to become, officially Newbury residents, and we're hopeful that we can, get this project completed, over the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay. Martha, anything you'd like to add?
So this was, as Scott mentioned, I think all the inspections have been completed at this point. The one pending or outstanding item really was getting the homeowner's documents in place. So Mark did have his attorney, Scott had his attorney, Mark Janos, draft a document which was reviewed and revised by town council and sent back. And I believe that Scott and Mark are both in agreement with that document. I understand that there's one typo in there that I need to find, but
Okay, so that's really all we're concerned with tonight is just the homeowners documents, or actually not
That's
a
right.
homeowners association.
yep, just
Declaration of protective covenants, easements, and agreements running with the land, I believe is the title of
Right,
the
and-
document.
right. And one of town council's concerns was to make sure that this was a document that would run in perpetuity. Restrictions usually expire after 30 years, but this needs to run in perpetuity because there will be, an ongoing obligation to maintain that little extension of Shondell Drive and allow for access, and Newburyport Department of Public Services has a snow storage area there. So the document was drafted accordingly.
Okay, good. Pete, do you have any questions?
No questions. Welcome to town.
Yeah. George, any questions?
No questions.
Leslie, any questions?
No questions. Howdy, neighbor.
And Woody, any questions?
No questions. Thanks.
I don't have anything either. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the document in question. The declaration of protective covenants, easements, and agreements running with the land, contingent on final review and approval by town council. Anyone care to make that motion?
I moved.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Woody. Any discussion? Pete, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Good luck, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll see
and
you
as they say, welcome to town.
Great.
Okay,
Very much.
take care. All right, are we ready for 68 Green Street?
So I know Mike is here. Jennifer DeCarlo's here. I don't know if Bill is here yet.
If Bill joins, he'll be joining in like 3 or 4 minutes, but I think
Excuse me,
he,
one second. What is it, honey? Oh, okay. Good night. Good night. Oh, you're on TV.
The best, Larry.
She is. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted. She's a sweetheart. She's 9 years old. But anyway, I'm sorry, I got off. So are we waiting for the attorney?
I think you're muted, Jennifer.
Thank you. Sorry about that. My name is Jennifer DeCarlo, and I am with Heaney and Associates, and I don't think we are waiting for Bill. He may end up joining us, depending on how long we are dealing with this particular item, but we can certainly go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, let me, thanks, Jennifer. We'll do that. Let me read what we have on the agenda, just for the record. So 68 Green Street subdivision, Farmview Lane, request from Michael DeSantis, Crane Properties for release of, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 69 Green Street subdivision, Farmview Lane, request from Michael DeSantis, Crane Properties for approval of declaration of trust, Farmview Lane Homeowners Trust, declaration of commons scheme restrictions, and release deed from Ray L. Andrews and Elizabeth H. Andrews. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get into the Lot 3 release after that.
Mhm.
And
So,
excuse me if I may, there is one other document that was, had been previously submitted. I unfortunately didn't include it. We got a revised version today, and that was the consent to declaration of trust of the Farmview Lane Homeowners Trust and Reservation for the Andrews. So
I have that,
came-
Martha. Thank you. I just overlooked it. Okay. Yeah, we just got a revised version of that this afternoon. I understand. I'm sorry, Attorney DiCarlo, go ahead.
That's okay. So that's correct. We are here regarding these homeowners association documents. About 5:15 tonight, after several days of working on revisions diligently. I did hear from Attorney Bethany Raffa, Town Council. She had forwarded me what I believe is a final set of documents asking me to accept all of her changes. We did that. We turned around, forwarded them back to her. She did ask for us to address one item in I believe it was the Declaration of Common scheme restrictions regarding the maintenance of Japanese knotwood and the fact that that would be a perpetual obligation of the association. So there is an order of conditions in place that deals in particular with this issue. And obviously there'll be a certificate of compliance at some point, but this will be a continuing obligation. And so to ensure that it is perpetual and continuing, we did include language in the document that indicates that that obligation would survive and be perpetual, notwithstanding the issuance of a certificate of compliance. So I believe that we've addressed all of Town Council's concerns. The only remaining item that we asked for clarification on, and I feel that this is something that can happen outside of this meeting, is just a clarification. The plan at times references Farmview Way. There's a designation on one of the plans that says Farmview Way, but clearly this is Farmview Lane. And so it may make sense, just for clarity, to just have an AKA in these documents. And I would certainly adopt Town Council's opinion on that. I don't think that's anything that should necessarily hold up approval of these documents. So that's my report. I don't know if Mr. DeSantis has anything else to add with respect to the documents.
No, I have nothing else to add.
Pete, do you have any questions?
I don't. So basically, we're set on the documents. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe with some minor modifications that, as Attorney DiCarlo mentioned, probably could just be handled administratively. George, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Leslie, any questions?
No questions.
And Woody, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks, Larry.
Nor do I. I know you've been working very hard on this to get these documents together. Martha, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. I think there are just, a couple of final things to be probably settled on administratively, but there has been a lot of back and forth, and so I think they're in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
Let me make sure I get this correct. So then I think a motion to approve the declaration of trust, the declaration of common scheme restrictions, the release deed, and the consent conditioned on final review and approval by Town Council. I think that motion would be in order. Did I cover everything there, Martha?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I think I heard Leslie first. Thank you, Leslie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Any further discussion? Okay, then, Peter, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, 68 Green Street subdivision, Farmview Lane, request from Michael DeSantis Crane Properties for release of Lot 3 from the restrictive covenant dated February 16th, 2021, recorded at the Southern Essex Registry of Deeds Book 39692, page 181. This is discussion carried over from our prior meetings. How we, I don't know who wants to speak to this, either Attorney DiCarlo or Mr. DeSantis.
I think we were just looking for to be able to convey the lot now that all things are satisfied. I think the HOA was the last bit that we needed to satisfy. We have a certificate of compliance from the health department, and we passed our final inspection this morning, and now just waiting on the CO, which I think will rely obviously on this approval of the HOA. So, yeah, we just need it released from the covenant so we can convey it.
Okay, and Martha, do you have anything from our engineer, from Joe? See,
He had said previously that as far as he was concerned, the roadway and the installation of utilities in the roadway were complete enough to be able to do this.
Okay. All right, Pete, do you have any questions?
I do not.
No. George, do you have any questions?
No.
Leslie, any questions?
No,
Woody, any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay. Then if everything appears to be in order, I guess it would be appropriate to ask for a vote to release Lot 3 contingent on final review and approval of the HOA documents by town council and execution of the same, and to authorize the chair to sign the Form E certificate of performance releasing Lot 3. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Woody. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
George, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
Leslie, how do you vote on the motion?
yes,
And Woody, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So good luck. I think you're good to go.
Yes, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you
you.
so much. I just wanted to thank also, for the record, I wanted to thank town council for all their cooperation this week. I know we had a lot of back and forth, and also Ms. Taylor for her cooperation. Thank you, board.
I thank you for that. I know you've all worked very hard on this.
We have. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the help.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. I think that brings us to the planning director's report.
All right.
Did I miss something, Martha?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, I think we've covered everybody who was supposed to be here tonight. So as far as planning director's report, I don't have a whole heck of a lot tonight. As was discussed earlier, pending any final action from the legislature regarding an extension of the ability to meet remotely, we will be back in person as of April 1st. If we hear anything from town council, we'll certainly let you know right away. But we do have, at least now the April 19th meeting in person since the hearings have been continued and the hearing date was set for the Governor's Academy.
Yeah, and we also continued having a senior moment, excuse me. We
Well,
continued Orchard Street public hearing as well for that day.
Right.
Okay, yeah, and I'm sorry, Martha, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say there are no public hearings scheduled for April 6th, so if something does change, that I suppose could still be a Zoom meeting, but the 19th will definitely have to be in person.
In person, right.
All right, liaison reports. Leslie.
I do have, I'm sorry, I do have one more thing for the planners report. We have, I just received this evening, right before the meeting, something that was issued by the Attorney General's office about the MBTA communities legislation, which I will forward to you all tomorrow. I only had a chance to skim it, but it goes into what some of the ramifications will be for communities that are not in compliance. So And just a heads up that I'll be forwarding that to you all tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Martha. Anything further?
No, that's it. Sorry.
Okay, so liaison reports. Leslie, anything from the select board?
Last Tuesday night, the select board had a joint meeting with the planning board, FinCom, capital planning to review the proposal of a new town hall. Last night's meeting was canceled due to weather.
Okay. That it? Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, ZBA is meeting tomorrow night for the regular monthly meeting. It promises to be a very short meeting. There's a continued public hearing for 80 Northern Boulevard, but I understand that the applicant is going to request to withdraw that without prejudice. And there's also a continued public hearing for 16 Green Street. But this was simply to review the final decision on the petition. So that's about it for ZBA. Conservation, Pete?
Conservation was running same time as our multi-team meeting last week, so I was not at that meeting. I was at that one.
Okay. Thank you. And MVPC, Martha?
Just a couple of things. The commissioners meeting is tomorrow. And then there will be a planners meeting, a monthly planners meeting the following Thursday, and there'll be some more discussion about the MBTA communities legislation.
Okay.
And actually the one thing that's ongoing right now is their economic and community or their community and economic development program manager is heading up a community and economic development strategy plan update, and they've been having meetings in one in each community. Next week there will actually be a meeting at our library in actually can't remember what time it is, but I won't be able to go, but Kristen will be attending that.
Okay.
So that's it.
Thank you. And the last item on the agenda are the meeting minutes from January 18th and February 15th. Those only went out today. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those?
I have
No.
no.
No,
Okay, I'm seeing some head shaking in the negative. So maybe we'll just hold those till the next meeting, Martha.
Sure.
Okay. All right, then. That's it. Actually, it's 8:32. Not too bad. I thought we'd be here later than that tonight.
Good
So
to
I would
know.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Leslie. Is there a second?
second,
Thanks, Woody. Any discussion? Hearing none. Pete, how do you vote?
Yes.
George, how do you vote?
oh, yes.
Yes. Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Woody, how do you vote?
yes.
And I vote yes as well. So we are adjourned at 8:33 PM. Thank you all.